Hello everyone, my name is Tom, the Sugma Mail, and we got some breaking news about everyone's favorite adult cartoon, Richard and Mortimer. For those of you who do not know, recently Justin Roiland had some allegations, not even allegations, some criminal charges brought against him for domestic abuse, and there have been other allegations alongside that. The important thing is, Adult Swim just announced, as of recording this, that they will be continuing with Rick and Morty and parting ways with Justin Roiland. So the show will continue and Justin Roiland will no longer be a part of it. Of course, this is a little bit complicated. They've done this before in the realm of animation. The Loud House did it, Clarence did it, where one of the primary showrunners, or even the showrunner, was accused of not so great things and then was let go by the network, by the governing body over the creative process. They recognize that making these shows is a group effort, and they don't want to put a lot of people out of work for the sins of a single person who, despite playing a major role, is not the show themselves. And in this case especially, there is the circumstance where Dan Harmon is also a showrunner, so it's not like there's nobody who can take the helm. Of course, the point that a lot of people are going to bring up is the fact that Rick and Morty, the titular characters, the primary pieces of the puzzle here, the bread and butter of what makes Rick and Morty Rick and Morty themselves, are voiced by Justin Roiland, as well as several other characters, side characters on the show, are voiced by Justin Roiland. And the point ultimately is, you can replace that. There have been plenty of characters throughout time, very iconic characters, who have had their voice actors replaced, in cases where you probably didn't even notice that the voice actor got replaced. But the question ultimately is, the question that I'm posing in this video, or not necessarily that I am posing, but the question that is being posed right now online on the internet is it really worth it to continue Rick and Morty without one of the primary creators, and especially when the primary creator in question has all these skeletons in his closet and is also so closely associated with the DNA of the show. And the fact is that Rick and Morty, like any animated project, is not the work of a singular person. I know, especially now in the days of social media, where we like to idolize and put people on pedestals, we often do associate a single showrunner and credit them with the entire creation of a show. But in reality, animation is a group effort. It is a very difficult thing to do. It is never the work of one person. It is always a collective effort. It is always the product of many minds coming together to create something. But the question of should Rick and Morty continue, I think, is a bit of a Trojan horse, because people don't really mean should it continue. They aren't really looking for an exact reason why. They aren't really looking for reasons why. They're asking a very specific question clouded in this other question, and that question is, will the show still be as good as it was in its prime if you start switching out the primary people, or one of the primary people? Is it really worth it if you start bringing in people who do not have the same vision, who might have a different vision? And honestly, I don't see a reason why that would be an issue, especially since, let's be honest, Rick and Morty has gotten kinda stale over the last couple seasons. In fact, I think it is even still worth it to maintain the show and save the show, even if the show will not be as good or better than it has been. And the reason why is because Rick and Morty is a huge cash cow for Adult Swim. And I know as soon as I say that, a lot of you are going to be like, well, that's no excuse. Like, that just means that they're interested in money. But what people fail to recognize is ultimately it's not coming from a place of greed, it's coming from a place more so of just profitability and commercial success of Adult Swim as an entity. Because people will love Steven Universe, but hate on Teen Titans Go. People will love Breath of the Wild, and not like the quota, bare minimum Pokemon games that come out every couple of years. But what needs to be recognized is these are the shows, these are the properties that are profitable, that bring in money, that bring in revenue, bring in resources to be allocated towards those passion projects, which grants a level of creative freedom, grants extra time, grants extra resources, grants extra funding to these masterpieces of art that you love, and would not be possible without these cash cows. And the thing about Adult Swim is Adult Swim thrives on these weird, niche, absurd concepts for TV shows, concepts that are rarely profitable, because they serve a niche audience of a bunch of middle schoolers and high schoolers with insomnia, college stoners, adult stoners, and all-around weirdos that only make up a fraction of the population. However, despite Rick and Morty being almost directly targeted towards that audience, it managed to blow up into a mainstream phenomenon, and through that, they can fund even more of these weird but unique and beloved shows that serve their target audience. And that's something that a lot of people don't want to hear, because they have this idea of animation and of art and entertainment as though it is a field where people are just fueled by passion and only passion. But in a way, this is also fueled by passion because of the fact that you need these shows. Steven Universe would not have gotten to go on as long as it did or have the amount of resources it had if it wasn't for Teen Titans Go. And that's just a fact. And I know that Adult Swim is owned by Turner Media, which is a massive company, but I'll put it the way that someone who worked at Disney TVA put it to me, is essentially something like Adult Swim is not on its own Turner Media, is one arm of a massive beast that is just a huge corporation. And if that arm is not bringing in revenue, if it is not profitable, then that arm gets let go. They chop the arm off. And if it wasn't for Rick and Morty, I'm not sure Adult Swim would even be around at this point. Or at least it would be like greatly downsized. Because I mean, even a few years back before the pandemic, when I got the privilege of going to Adult Swim Studios in Atlanta, bro, they had Rick and Morty all over the place. Like, they have accepted the fact that they are the Rick and Morty network. Like, that is their most profitable property. And through the profitability of properties like Rick and Morty, like SpongeBob, like The Simpsons, like Teen Titans Go, like Pokemon, these studios can make passion projects and be able to pour the resources necessary to make them as good as possible without the pressure of whether or not they're going to be successful on their merit alone. Because critical success and merit in art, unfortunately in this industry, does not guarantee success. And this is a story that has existed in the entertainment industry for a long time. In fact, that's what this channel is. Like, the effort and time that I put into the videos I put on Sugma Mail, which is much higher effort, and if you're looking for that from me, you can go over there, or you can watch the roundtable, because I got plenty of those on there. The 500 views I get on a video I put a ton of work into on Sugma Mail is not worth more because I put the work in than the 800 views I'll get in a month doing a video a week on this channel that takes me about 2 hours collectively to work on. And once this channel gets to the point where I can actually make some money off of this, it will give me the freedom to put more time and resources, and even give me money to put more funding into the videos that I put on Sugma Mail. And speaking of money, I do want to take a moment to acknowledge that not everyone I've seen talking about this whole situation is speaking about it from a fan's perspective, or even from people who are not even in the animation space, who are more normie fans, because Rick and Morty has that wide appeal, and probably doesn't even consider the idea that people working in the industry are not bi-coastal elites, and are rather gig economy workers trying to afford a overpriced apartment in Burbank, which if you followed my adventures over the summer, which I documented in my One Piece video over on Sugma Mail, you will know that I am all too familiar with that struggle. Part of the reason I decided to come back from Michigan after driving all the way out there was because I realized a nice one-room apartment here is half the price of a shitty one-room apartment out there. So the people working in animation, they need the work, and I do want to extend a solidarity in the relief that I've seen some people on my timeline who are more connected to the industry, who express their gratitude for the fact that Rick and Morty isn't just being shown the chopping block, and a lot of these people who work on Rick and Morty are going to be able to continue to make ends meet and have work lined up instead of having to rush to find a new job. But anyways, my name is Tom, and that's about all I gotta say.